Welcome to Screen Roar Docs. This week we're stepping into worlds built on illusion. Fame, faith, fear, and the fallout when reality breaks through. We'll see artists chasing immortality, billionaires losing control, and killers caught between guilt and spectacle. If you're into documentaries that go beyond the surface, subscribe and catch the most gripping stories from around the world every week. Let's get into it! If you think nature documentaries are just whales in slow motion and gentle voices talking about the circle of life, think again. Nightmares of Nature is what happens when nature gets filmed like a horror series. 3 episodes, tiny animals, massive danger. The whole plot is basically, don't get eaten today. It's made by renowned Blumhouse Productions, the brand that gave us Get Out and The Purge, so you know what to expect. The formula, chase, hide, almost die, repeat, can get familiar, but it is also satisfying. This is nature docs reimagined for the TikTok generation. The macro camera work is gorgeous to watch. The sound design, every scratch, rustle, breath, feels like it matters. I totally recommend it if you love nature docs with animals in peril. Want something similar but calmer? Try The Hunt. Same tension, fewer dramatic opossum. Aileen Wuornos, homeless sex worker, 7 murders, death row, you know the headlines, the mugshots, the film monster. But Aileen, queen of the serial killers, steps closer, using only real footage, police tapes, TV reports, and prison interviews. No reenactments, just the woman as she was, before she became a legend or a monster. At its center is her relationship with Taria Moore, her lover, and the person whose cooperation helped convict her. Their real phone call plays out on screen, Aileen offering to confess to protect her. The film never answers whether Moore betrayed her. It simply lets the unease linger. The most haunting moment is the 1997 death row footage by Jasmine Hurst. Aileen appears just unraveling on camera. The documentary doesn't ask you to sympathize or to hate her. It just shows what she suffered, what she did, and how the world turned it into spectacle. Perfect for anyone who prefers their true crime stripped of drama. As a companion piece, I recommend The Central Park 5. It explores similar themes of media frenzy and moral panic. A reminder of how easily society decides who the monsters are. BAbo, Die Haftbefehl Story charts the rise of Aykut Anhan, better known as Haftbefehl, the rapper who dragged raw, multilingual street sound into Germany's mainstream. BAbo, Turkish for boss, became both his brand and his armor. The film presents a man split in two. Aykut is the anxious absent husband and father, and Haftbefehl is the designer rap icon with bleached hair and an Eminem-like stare. His confidence, the film suggests, comes from something darker, childhood trauma, and the death of his father, though it never digs far beneath the surface. As his fame grows, so does the unraveling. Shows are canceled, his family slips away, and the myth eclipses the person. Still, his honesty about addiction, therapy, and suicidal thoughts cuts through the polished production. A confession wrapped in marketing. Watch if you're curious about German rap or the cost of self-made myth. For an alternative, watch Juice WRLD, Into the Abyss, a more raw, honest look at fame and addiction without the self-mythologizing. It follows the late rapper Juice WRLD through studio sessions, tours, and his spiral into drug dependence, revealing how talent and pain fed each other until neither could stop. The White House Effect is a remarkable piece of archival filmmaking, a political thriller built entirely from historical footage. It begins in the late 1970s, when President Jimmy Carter was the first to treat global warming as a national issue. Back then, climate responsibility wasn't partisan. Ordinary Americans spoke about sacrifice and duty, and science was still trusted. The film then moves to 1988's Deadly Heat and George H.W. Bush campaigning as the environmental president, openly acknowledging the greenhouse effect. Through Senate hearings, campaign videos, and internal White House footage, we watch Bush's promised collapse under political advisors like John Sununu and fossil fuel lobbyists. By the 1992 Rio Earth Summit, the US, once poised to lead, becomes the only major nation to reject binding climate targets. Knowing and not acting, it leaves you with a quiet sense of loss, that a more rational, science-led moment once existed, and we let it slip into denial and political fear. Follow With an Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore, the documentary that turned climate science into a global wake-up call, laying out in simple, urgent terms the data, evidence, and forecasts that made the crisis impossible to ignore. Juan Gabriel, I Must, I Can, I Will, retraces the life of Alberto Aguilera Valadez, abandoned child turned musical legend, composer of 1,800 plus songs, a voice for the working class and LGBTQ plus community. Juan Gabriel became one of Latin America's most beloved artists. This 4-part series doesn't reinvent his story, it preserves it. The real achievement is archival. Much of the footage comes from his personal collection, restored and presented with the care of a historical record. Every stage of his life, from orphanage to global stages, is visually documented with precision. But while it is rich in material, it rarely digs beneath it. his contradictions, a queer icon in a conservative society, adored yet profoundly alone, are observed rather than examined. As a visual legacy, elegant editing, stunning archive, and his voice guiding it all. If you want to see those same themes, fame, faith, and queerness, explored with more fire and contradiction, watch Little Richard I Am Everything. It's louder, bolder, and far more willing to question what it costs to be yourself when the world isn't ready. Startup fall down from billionaire to convict follows Alberto Genovese, a tech wonderkind who sold his startup for a fortune, crowned himself king of Milan's nightlife, and then crashed into reality when a woman accused him of sexual assault after one of his drug-fueled penthouse parties. It's a story full of excess, money, ego, cocaine, private islands, and it should be electrifying. And yet, the series often feels like Netflix stream bait, sold as explosive true crime, but stretched into 3 episodes when there's barely enough substance for one. You get repetition, filler drone shots of Milan, and interviewees saying the same thing while pretending they're shocked. Still, it hints at big themes: tech bro arrogance, privilege, systemic failure, but never fully commits. Gripping in parts, dull in others, it feels like a great documentary diluted into a mini-series by an algorithm. Fascinating subject, frustrating execution. For a sharper, more honest look at power, privilege, and consent, watch Black Box Diaries. It's everything this series tries to be, but with real courage behind the camera. And that's it for this week. If you enjoyed the ride, hit subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments what you've been watching, or what deserves a spot next week. So stay tuned for more truth, chaos, and brilliance from the world of documentaries. See you next time.